A letter from Billy on March 24, 2021, translated with deephell.com. Disclaimer: this is an unofficial translation and does contain errors.
The 24th of March 2021.
Values, esteemed FIGU members.
Dear FIGU friends, acquaintances and interested parties. Unfortunately, it is only now that I can personally reply to all the letters and emails, as well as to all the inquiries etc. I have received. Unfortunately, I can only now find time to reply personally to all the letters and emails, as well as to all the inquiries, etc., and to thank everyone, and to explain and tell a few things, because I have just finished a job and at the moment have some time to do something privately on the computer, but unfortunately I cannot go into details too extensively. This is because my work does not allow me to do it and I am no longer able to cope with it, due to external interference of negative energies and their forces. But as I write these lines, I first of all hope and wish that you are all healthy and well, and that you indeed remain so, especially in this corona time. I want to thank you all very much, for all your letters of all kinds during the last weeks and months, as well as for your loyalty to our mission, which we are fulfilling together against all malicious attacks against us, especially against me personally. For all your steadfastness and your way of life and recognition and awareness of the real reality, as well as your steadfastness in the face of all hostility, insults, lies and slander, all hatred, all hostility, idiosyncrasy and all other objections against the FIGU and its members, but especially against me, I express my very special deep gratitude to you all. I am very pleased that you, as a rule, all of you, explicitly emphasize in your letters that you are in there.
Doctrine of truth. Doctrine of the energy of creation. Doctrine of life.
Doctrine of the spirit RISP. Doctrine of the spirit, and in general my book written Doctrine Executions. You find much that is helpful to you and also lets you walk upright and healthy through the prevailing corona plague. Because through the doctrine you find much energy and strength and gain so much that you are able to defend yourselves against the plague out of your own energy, strength and reason, for which I think that you manage the whole very well to get through everything well. Consequently you can walk along well and healthy and get through everything well. And if you act according to necessity and do all that is necessary, the wearing of suitable respirators of the quality FFP2, as well as the necessary keeping of distance from person to person, then not the corona plague, but you will emerge as the victor from the whole. All those of you throughout the world who are very concerned about my family and me, I find your concern for us in this way very kind, as well as that you want to do something helpful for us. However, I would like to say, if you will allow me, that you should please know that we too, Eva and I, are very grateful for your offer that you want to help us, but Eva and I want to refrain from doing so, because we can manage without help and earn our living in the right way. We are not rich and live modestly, like all of us here at the center. But we can earn our living legally through our own lifelong work and also through a few financial means of our own and our old age pension, which Eva and I can show. So we are very grateful to all of you for your concern for us, but we can really keep ourselves afloat because we don't make any
big leaps
either, but stay sensibly on the ground. What is still to be said with regard to all previous donations to FIGU, as well as with regard to future ones? All sums were and will of course be used completely for the whole of our mission, namely with regard to the elaboration, production and dissemination of the books and writings concerning their
teaching of truth, teaching of the energy of creation, of the spirit, teaching of life.
What I have to say to you, dear FIGU members, friends, acquaintances, interested persons, sympathizers and all other persons concerning the naming of the teaching, is the following. The term
spirit,
which arose in the early Middle Ages, does not actually correspond to the value that should be. We only use this term because mankind has adjusted to it since the early Middle Ages, whereby, however, we now want to slowly put it in the background and replace it with the value that corresponds to the correct term, and that is the value
creation energy.
For human consciousness does not live through a word for an ill-advisedly invented imaginary
spirit,
as it is called, but through their
creation energy,
and its power, by which the whole body with all its organs is also animated. For this reason we are endeavoring slowly over time to remove the completely wrong term everywhere in the teaching and in all the writings etc. and to replace it with the correct designation, which is why we began some time ago to rewrite the teaching designation as
teaching of truth, teaching of the energy of creation, teaching of life.
I would also like to address many questions that are raised again and again about our daughter Selina, whereupon I must also disclose what is happening in this regard around our
Spatsley,
our dear, but unfortunately severely handicapped daughter Selina is also taken care of. As I just mentioned, we call her
Spatsley,
which is actually a little house sparrow. She unfortunately suffers from epileptic seizures more or less every day, cannot speak, has severe motor disorders and cannot walk independently. She can only communicate with crying sounds, gestures and a speech computer. According to insurance regulations, Selina is in a home for the disabled from Monday to Friday lunchtime. But from Friday lunchtime to Monday morning she is with us at home in the center. The part-week stay in the home for the disabled, where she likes it very much, is paid for by supplementary benefits from the state disability insurance, which is obligatory in Switzerland and for which every taxpayer has to pay a certain percentage of their earned income. What Eva and I have to pay for ourselves out of our old age pension is 3 weeks of exercise therapy twice a year, which is necessary and carried out by trained therapists from Hungary who come to the center and live there for 3 weeks. These 2 therapists, one comes in early summer, one in late summer, work several thousand francs cheaper than Swiss therapists, which is why we have to choose people we can still pay privately because of our finances. But as for all the questions about what was done for Selina from the moment of birth, that is something that only an extraordinarily good and loving mother could do, and that was Eva in this way. And what she did for our child is probably incomprehensible to outsiders, because she accomplished something that effectively only a true mother could do, and which the so-called specialists declared impossible. And Eva alone was this mother, and she alone ensured that Selina learned to stand upright at all and also to walk with help. For the center's main building, I bought walking frames and screwed them to the walls all over the ground floor, so that Selina could hold onto them and walk on her own, standing upright, through the flat, kitchen, bedroom, into Eva's and my office, as well as into the bathroom and out the front door and about 8 meters further. Where she can't hold on, she goes down to the floor and moves on her knees and hands. So in this way everything goes well and completely different from what the entire special medical profession said from the very beginning, because all of them claimed and prophesied that Selina would remain a recumbent during her lifetime and would never be able to stand, let alone ever walk. But then, dear members, friends, acquaintances, interested parties, these experts did not reckon with my dear Eva. She fundamentally disagreed with everything all these luminaries said, but took the initiative herself and made efforts with and around Selena practically day and night through all the years and made it happen that the girl learned to stand, which the doctors could not comprehend, just as they could not comprehend that Selena even learned to walk, albeit with the help of holding, or even independently with the help of the walking rods I had installed in the house. Also the twice 3-week movement therapies per year, but even today, thanks to Eva's tireless hard work, Selena can lead a life that is bearable and humane for her. If I believed in miracles, I would say that Eva has performed a miracle with Selena, but since I do not believe in miracles, but as a realist only see the real reality, I know that it is only Eva's tremendous commitment over many years. Now it is already 24 years, which will probably last a lifetime, just as it was, is and will be all her laborious, lengthy and untiring efforts, as well as the numerous and sleepless night hours, which made the whole thing possible for Selena. Well, these are the effective facts about Selena, and with what I have said I have probably answered all the many questions, to which, however, I must also say quite clearly that Eva alone, through her untiring efforts, which Selena needed and, despite all her success, still needs today and throughout her life, has achieved something that only a true and loving mother who really loves her child can accomplish and make a reality. I must honestly confess that I am ashamed of the fact that I was only able to contribute a very small part, if any at all, to all of her immense efforts, because everything she did with Selena weighed and continues to weigh on Eva, as well as all the problems associated with it, with which she has been burdened until now and will continue to be burdened until the end of her life, in order to be able to cope with everything. And the fact that she also relieves me tremendously so that I can do my work at all, as well as managing the parcel service and parcel delivery with Selena, doing housework, gardening and kitchen work, as well as doing the preliminary bookkeeping, etc., etc., probably exceeds everything that a normal person can actually achieve, but even manages it. But how she is able to do it is a mystery to many, but it is based on the fact that she is always balanced and does everything attentively, correctly and with love. And that seems like a miracle, but it is not, because her character, her personality and her whole being lives in everything she does. She simply can do it. It is her life, and she takes pleasure in it. And what has to be mentioned again is the fact that Eva and I have learned already in our young years to handle our income in a financially correct way, so that today we can manage well with our old age pensions and do not have any difficulties in this respect, not even with the needs of Selena, such as clothes, shoes and all other necessities, etc. Finally, I would like to say the following in response to the many questions that I have been asked time and again and on which I would like to comment openly. We are all in good hands here at the FIGU Center. Our center is an old farmhouse, which was completely dilapidated and which I have renovated and extended over many years of work with willing helpers. However, I was only able to do this because I am, so to speak, a skilled all-rounder in many constructional, electrical and various other craft activities, which was unfortunately not the case for all the staff, because they were all untrained in crafts and could therefore only help out in a hands-on way, for which I was very happy and grateful and of course remain so. All of us here in the center can live modestly, but nevertheless well and contentedly as well as cheaply. And this is because I not only understand and can do some of the various manual work, but also because I have learned from a young age how to handle money properly with regard to finances and purchasing, etc., which was also indispensable for building up the center. Even as a child, We had to earn our pocket money ourselves by looking for and collecting glass, scrap metal and materials etc. in the rubbish pits. At that time, we could buy the glass at 5 centimes per kilo from the glassworks in Bulak, the scrap metal from the metal dealers and the materials from the scrap dealers. We also collected berries in the forests and sold them to housewives, as well as collecting pine cones and selling them to people who used them to fire their central heating systems. Running errands and buying food for households or construction workers also always brought in some pocket money. So I learned a lot from dealing with money at an early age and then consequently arranged everything financially for all of us in the center in such a way that we could live here cheaply, exist and also work for my mission. In addition, I have arranged everything in such a way that all members in the center, in contrast to members who rent outside the FIGU center, have to pay as low a rent as possible, only about 1/4 of the usual rent outside the center, including everything that is necessary, such as electricity, water, heating, parking and everything else that is needed. Only telephone, radio and television fees have to be paid by the individual members themselves. I have also arranged the daily meals for all center residents in such a way that each member living here has to pay only half of what the food-related living expenses usually cost for a person outside the center. Now, contrary to all the now very pleasant facts, I am unfortunately no longer in a position since November 2020 to be able to answer all my work on the computer, as well as all the many good, kind wishes and words as well as all the incoming mail at all in a timely manner, which is why I only sometimes find an opportunity to write a personal thank you, letter or something separate, as is also the case now. After which a lot of time will pass again until I can write something privately another time, and that can take months. In the end, all this is also the reason why I have not been able to receive visits or conduct correspondence myself for years, as I was able to do in the 1980s, but unfortunately had to give up. Since moving into the center, my work has always been such that I cannot get more than 4 to 5 hours of rest every day, and in addition, my various activities have also increased more and more, sometimes even leaving me with only 2 or 3 hours of rest per day. And this has been especially the case since 2001. Because since then complications and difficulties have arisen more and more blatantly and increasingly at work, and these have continued to arise more and more until today, precisely in my work on the computer. These are energies and forces of a parapsychological nature, and many will neither accept nor understand this, consequently they will not take note of the truth, but will accuse me of fibbing, of swindling or even of madness. However, these occurrences correspond to reality, in that independent sectarian energies and forces of humanity are turning against me and my work and are having a destructive effect on electronics, as Pleiadian Sonarian scientists have discovered after many years of extremely profound research work. And that it is neither a matter of machinations fabricated by me nor otherwise of a hoax. Various people who have directly observed and witnessed everything with their own eyes at a distance of only 50 centimeters can all testify to that. Unfortunately, this will probably remain so in the future, because the Pledgeran and Sonea will need long years to find, work out and use a defense against these sectarian energies and forces, which are so strongly directed against me that I can only work with great difficulty, if at all, because the whole thing is completely new territory for the Pledgeran and the Sonea, as a result of which they did not know such things until now. These energies, which unfortunately obviously rebel against the effective real truth and seek to prevent its dissemination, are based on the earth on extremely powerful damaging degenerations of faith sectarian delusions, which have formed themselves as an elemental block of faith delusion energy, have now made themselves independent and constantly attack me and often destroy my work, against which I must defend myself, which unfortunately I do not always completely succeed in doing, as a result of which I sometimes suffer physical damage through strange accidents, as the Pleiades and Sonans have now been able to fathom. These energies and their forces affect the electronics of my computer, as well as any other electronic device on which I work, while other group members etc. can work on the same computer without error, without the same destructive and other damaging phenomena occurring. Furthermore, parapsychological phenomena of the same kind also occurred in my workroom in the 1980s, but of a different and extremely perfidious nature, but after much interpersonal relationship damage had been caused. In the 1990s a group of and was able to remedy everything. Nevertheless, unfortunately, in the 1980s there were paranormal attacks on various people who were in my working space and who were not only illusionary but even physically attacked and suffered damage, up to and including broken bones and unfair accusations against my person. However, this could then be stopped in the mid-1990s, again by the and, as similar incidents also caused a lot of trouble and unrest in the attic and in the cellar, which could then, however, also be stopped by the and, who are extremely well versed in knowledge and in fighting paranormal energies and forces. However, they have no knowledge and consequently no experience of the sectarian energies and forces of faith, so that they are completely powerless against the energies that have been raging in my working space for decades and are now catastrophic. Since these energies and forces have appeared and have been working in my workspace, a great deal of interpersonal and work-related damage has been done. In the past, however, when only purely parapsychological incidents occurred and people were driven away from the center, such as Professor Dr. Hans Spender, the German psychologist and parapsychologist who had also studied law as well as Romance languages and philosophy and also medicine, the whole thing could be brought to an end by the intervention of the and in the 1990s. But the faith sectarian energies and forces were of a completely different nature than simple parapsychological degenerations, which were unknown to them. The and first had to be researched in order to be able to fight them one day in the distant future. Well, interventions of the faith sectarian energies and forces that work maliciously against the real reality and its truth and have made themselves independent are now constantly hindering me in my work, and this already since the year 1977. And especially catastrophically and very massively since the year 2001. Since then, these energies and forces have become worse and worse in their power and have now become practically over-catastrophic, so that today it is so bad that just to be able to write an A4 page, I now need almost, depending on the case, several hours, because I have to correct every single written word, because it is completely displaced and disfigured with foreign letters, signs and numbers. As an example, I will leave a particularly blatant part of a sentence, which rose during the writing of this letter, and reproduce it in its original form, as it was explicitly disfigured by the interference of these forces.
Das Vorher-Vierkend gedammer nicht non Friegeteilzeichen 8 VFR neurete Leid.
Corrected, thereby paranormal interferences in my activity take place. For years pleasure scientists tried to get to the bottom of the matter, but they can now scientifically prove, as the German psychologist and parapsychologist Professor Hans Spender already declared in the 1980s, when he was specifically attacked by these sectarian forces in my office, as various other persons, that alien faith sectarian forces are messing with my business in such a way, that I have been hindered in my work for years and now for months, and also now that I am writing this letter, I cannot write practically a single word on my computer without the malicious and uncontrollable alien sectarian forces inserting interferences in every single word and changing them in such a way that I have to correct everything laboriously letter by letter again. This is because these alien forces, as unbelievable as it may sound to the uninvolved and outsiders, interfere with the electronics of my computer, and every word is interspersed with other and completely meaningless letters, signs and numbers. And this happens in such a way that what I type into my computer, even in the presence of various witnesses, is illegible and incomprehensible. Correcting what is written takes much more time than the writing itself, because everything has to be corrected over and over again. And what is more interesting to say is that when other people write on my computer, everything goes completely normally and without errors. Under the circumstances now described, it is unfortunately not possible for me to go into the letters, lines and contents sent to me individually and in more detail, but I can only express my heartfelt thanks for everything in all its form with this letter, which I have to draft somewhat generally and publish on our website, because I have no other possibility of being able to announce the matter to everyone in an explanatory way. With this I remain with my sincere thanks and with the very best wishes that you all remain healthy and spared from illness, as well as that you take care with regard to the corona epidemic. Sincerely yours,
Billy.